So David came up with his 4 players for the Mount Rushmore. David, who is your number 1 Mount Rushmore player for the
Well, I don't
Arizona
have a number
Diamondbacks?
one. I just have my Mount Rushmore, right? Mount Rushmore doesn't have like who's the best president. Just these are the top 4. Okay, I don't want to
Right.
number these here because if I numbered them, I think people would like sit back. If you're not a Diamondback player person,
Yeah.
like you wouldn't understand why Luis Gonzalez would be number 1. But Luis Gonzalez is number 1.
Right. And one rule, by the way, you cannot be on a Mount Rushmore for multiple teams.
Yes,
So,
because there's going to be a couple players on here that could be on Mount Rushmores for other teams,
correct.
especially the Diamondbacks, because they've been a place where they brought players in and they did amazingly well. But Luis Gonzalez, to me, he is the King Kong of all Diamondbacks. He's if you're down here, he is the guy that everybody represents with the organization. Everyone knows him. What he did when he came to this organization just absolutely changed it, and he was his very best player when he was here. That 2001 season, the World Series championship team, he was 3rd in MVP, Silver Slugger, All-Star. Absolutely changed his entire career once he got down here. 57 home runs in 2001. I'm not saying why. I'm just saying he hit it. But in all reality, the deal is like he was a huge part of that team. But that winning World Series winning hit against Mariano Rivera to walk off, he is in Diamondback lore forever. He is enshrined on that Mount Rushmore.
And just getting a hit off of Mariano in the World Series should put you on a Mount Rushmore because nobody does it. And I don't. Have you had any interaction with Luis in your career?
Yes, absolutely. Not like as a player, no. But like when I see him around, I'll be at Diamondbacks games. I see him. I was there for a Perfect Game event, talked to him for a little bit. Great guy. Again, he's a guy when you're down here and you're around the Diamondbacks, you can't miss him. He's here. He's always here.
And I was going to say, the reason I asked is because from all the interactions that I've had with him, couldn't be a nicer guy.
Great guy. And again, like everybody knows him. Everybody's around. Like he is Mr. Diamondback.
There you go. All right, David, who do you have for your number 2 player on Mount Rushmore for the Diamondbacks?
I'm going to do this. I did number 2 and number 3 a combined deal because they were a combined deal when they were here. Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling. But we'll talk about Randy Johnson first. This dude, I mean, come on. Like, what do you got to say about Big Unit? Like this guy is, when he came, again, obviously he came here. Everyone knew him. He came to Montreal. He spent some time in Montreal. Seattle, he made his name for himself, right? He basically became a Hall of Fame candidate with Seattle. Then he goes to Houston, comes here to the Diamondbacks, and became a Hall of Famer. This is where he really cemented himself as that next level. He was really, really good and dominant with the Seattle Mariners, and he became a Hall of Famer with the Diamondbacks. And I mean, you go back to the incident with the bird and hitting the bird and blowing it up. You go like he won 4 consecutive Cy Young awards while he's here in the Diamondbacks. Absolutely incredible run when he was here and unhittable.
Yeah. I was talking earlier about Jacob deGrom and how he's the best pitcher I've ever seen. Well, if you're ranking those best pitchers I've ever seen in my lifetime, it would be Randy Johnson and Pedro right after those guys. Randy Johnson was just ridiculous. There was nothing he couldn't do on the mound. And then what he did in 2001 when they won the World Series, coming out of the pen on short rest to win that, absolutely incredible. Great ball player. Didn't do it in New York, and a lot of people look back on that and say, wow, I can't believe he couldn't handle the pressure in New York. But he was a little older.
He was 42 years old.
I agree.
Like he was 42 years old, and that was the worst decision he ever made. It had nothing to do with the pressure of New York. They were absolute douchebag assholes to him, and they're on the street crowding him, putting cameras in his face. And he's the problem with Randy Johnson is like that just doesn't fit his personality, and you wouldn't have ever thrown a camera in Zach Greinke's face because you knew like he wasn't able to handle it.
Right.
Like it's not that they weren't good. Randy Johnson pitched like for the Yankees when he was 33. He would have like been the greatest Yankee of all time. Yeah. It's just like he's 42, 41. And again, like he still had a 5.8 WAR. He would have led the league or been second in the league this year in WAR if he was and that was 42 years old. It was 17 wins. He had 2 years of 17 wins as a Yankee. both years 17 wins. Like he would literally be out pitching Garrett Cole,
Yeah,
and yet he couldn't handle it. Like it's such bullshit.
I agree. All right, let's move on to
Dude had
his
34 wins in 2 seasons. He was 34 and 19. And
right.
the whole idea is that he couldn't handle New York. Like he was better than Randy Johnson. Sorry, Roger Clemens probably, like numbers wise, and he was 42, 43.
But
Like
that's not what the fans and what the Yankees
right because
expected.
he got angry at some reporters who put a camera in his face while he's trying to walk down the street. Like that dude should have gotten punched in the face.
You
And everyone
try
got
that.
mad at him for doing what everybody would have wanted to do to the guy.
All right, let's move on to somebody that we have spoken to many, many times, somebody that we happen to like very much, but isn't the most popular around the world, and that's his partner in crime with the Arizona Diamondbacks, Curt Schilling.
The only dude that might have been better in 2001 than Randy Johnson was Curt Schilling, and they were on the same rotation together. 22 wins, 256 innings pitched. He was number 2 in Cy Young in 2 years back to back to Randy Johnson, who was number 1 in Cy Young. Imagine that being number 1 and number 2 and Cy Young on your rotation for 2 years in a row. He had 23 wins in 2003.
Oh, come on, Dave. Wins don't count. You know that. It doesn't mean anything.
Dude, 23 wins in 2002, and he was second place.
That's ridiculous.
To Randy Johnson at 24. But you know what? He had 22 wins in 2001, which was first place. Second place was Randy Johnson. Like absolutely incredible, dominant pitcher. And for as good as he was, like his numbers are Hall of Fame worthy. But he might be one of the best pitchers in the postseason in Major League history. And that's the thing about him. Like he's got 216 wins. Like I want to compare his numbers to CC. Like we're throwing CC out there as this surefire Hall of Famer no matter what thing. I want to compare Curt Schilling to CC. And I think Curt Schilling probably has him on a lot of different things. Plus, Curt Schilling, for everything CC was in the playoffs, Curt Schilling was more. Like way more.
Let's just do it simply. If you had the opportunity to have for their whole career, Curt Schilling or CC, who do you want?
Curt Schilling.
I'll take Curt Schilling.
I'm not even like second guessing because like, and that's nothing against CC, but Curt Schilling, like you like him or hate him, whatever. Think about his personality. The problem is the first thing you think about when you don't think he's a Hall of Famer is his personality.
Yeah,
and that's exactly why he is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, no, Curt. Again, I've said this plenty of times. Curt and I on political views were diametrically opposed, but the one thing that I like about Curt, every time I've had the chance to talk to him, is he's willing to listen. He's willing to accept someone else's views, and he's not portrayed that way by the media, which is very sad. I hate to see that. He should be in the Hall of Fame. And Curt, if you're watching, still a fan of yours, brother.
He threw 15 CGs one year, and Blake Snell was bragging about throwing 1. Yeah. Like our great achievement pitcher right these days, like Cy Young winner, was bragging about throwing a CG. He threw 15 in 1 year. Like go look at his baseball reference page and count the number of black marks like on there, which is the league leader. And like he was the league leader in strikeouts to walk ratio, which is a monster stat for pitchers, 6 times. Sorry, 5 times. Like this. His numbers are crazy, and he was so good. Like he had 15 CGs for the Phillies in '98, and they only had 15 wins.
I wonder how many of those were against the Mets.
That'd be 30 wins in today's game. He had 35 starts. Who does that? 32 led the 33 or 32 led the league, or 33 led the league. Like he made 2 more starts.
Yeah, boy was an absolute beast. And guys, if all you know Curt Schilling for is his political views, go back and watch him pitch. Go back and look at his stats. The guy was an animal. Yeah. All right, David, who's your last guy on your Mount Rushmore? Or do you want to put in your 2 should have been?
First one's out.
First one out.
Oh, let me go. Okay, so what I did was I did Mount Rushmore, and then I did first man out, and then I did like the next guy that could be. Okay, so my first man out, Brandon Webb.
Love Brandon Webb, both as a human being and as a pitcher.
Yes, he is the epitome of career cut short. So the dude played. I'm going to take away his last year. So he played 6 years in Major League Baseball. Okay. The last year he was totally hurt, only made one start. Six seasons. He was third in Rookie of the Year, won the Cy Young, number 2 in Cy Young, number 2 in Cy Young. Like, are you, for the years, he's literally one of the best pitchers in baseball. He had 14 wins, 16 wins, 22 wins, 18 wins. He led the league in WAR a year, led the league in wins 2 years. Game start, he had 34 game start 1 year. His 4 CGs led the league. Like the amount of things he did while he was healthy was absolutely incredible. It's just that he gave his arm. He gave his arm for it, and they still recognize him here as being one of the greats, which he was. But he was Tim Lincecum before Tim Lincecum. He didn't have the Lincecum stuff. He was a big sinker baller, but he was a bowling ball sinker baller. But he was Tim Lincecum, and like he was like frying pan hot, like as quick as he could, but he burned out so fast too.
And out of all the interviews that we've ever done, I would say that other than Junior, when we did 90 minutes with Junior, that Brandon Webb was my favorite interview that we did. I don't know why. He was just a great interview.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome on TV. He's awesome on radio. He does stuff down here with the Diamondbacks.
We got to get him on again.
So close to being so great, but it's crazy. Like his best, like he was for 3 years one of the best pitcher in baseball. And that's what Randy Johnson and like Curt Schilling were while they were here too. Yep. It's just that those guys did it for an extended period of time, especially Randy Johnson. But like, if you just give him 5 more years, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Like, even if he's just average for 5 more years, like he's borderline Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He was 4 years away from having a Felix Hernandez career, and he was probably 6-7 years away from having a Hall of Fame career.
Agreed. And then you have one guy who could push his way into Mount Rushmore. Who would that be?
This one was hard. This one was really hard for me. It's like the next guy. So I wanted to find a guy on the roster who could be the next man up into there. And there's a couple guys that that could be with the Diamondbacks, but I could tell Marte.
Yeah. I mean, he was a strong MVP contender this past season, despite the fact that he didn't get nearly as much love as other guys did. Great player, and yeah, not on the Mount Rushmore, but pretty damn good.
36 home runs, 292 average. He had an OPS of 932, third in MVP. He was an all-star, silver slugger, almost a 7 WAR. But again, like he has hit gold here in Arizona, and you watch how the organization treats him. Will Velo sees him in the locker room. You see how he interacts with everybody. He is that team. He has put them on his shoulder and just ran with it last year. Corbin Carroll is also, I would say, like Corbin Carroll has more of the name recognition here because like he hit the ground running, like literally.
Yeah.
But like Ketel Marte has like continued to improve, or Corbin Carroll's kind of had a little struggle last year, where Ketel Marte, if he just does what he's done, and does it for 2 more years, like he's gonna move he might move my last player on that Rushmore off and take a place.
And who is that last player?
Paul Goldschmidt.
Goldie. the new Yankee.
New Yankee. I mean, God, he here as a Diamondback, he was so good. So good. And if the Yankees get any bit of him like what he was here, and I had to watch him against him, and I've been watching him now for years, analyzing him. This dude can just flat out hit. He has an MVP under his belt, but when he was here with the Diamondbacks, he was MVP number 2 twice, 36 home run season, 33 home run season, 125 RBIs 1 year. He OPS of over 1,000. Like it's just averaging like in around like 900 on OPS when he was here as a Diamondback. Gold Glove defender, like really under. I don't want to say gold. Like he's a Gold Glover, but he was really underrated because like his size, you just don't think like he just looks big and kind of clunky or whatever. You know, It doesn't look smooth when he does that stuff at first base. But the problem is like he actually is so smooth that it looks slow and whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if he was smaller and faster, you'd be like, oh wow, he's incredible. Where he's just kind of big and just kind of gets there, you don't realize like, oh, he's always there and he always makes the play.
When I look at Goldschmidt, I don't know why I think about the Diamondbacks version of Evan Longoria. What
Yeah,
he
the
was to
swing
the
is
Diamondbacks,
very similar.
yeah, they're just a similar player.
He's just a lot bigger. He's a lot bigger of a guy and a little bit more home run power. Like Evan kind of did everything at third baseman, but like if you could at Evan Longoria and you just gave him more size, he's Paul Goldschmidt.
Right.
The swings are crazy. That's a really crazy like similarity on their swings. Like now I'm watching his video right now. I'm like, that is Evan Longoria, just bigger.
Yeah, and by the way, if you're waiting for us to get to Tampa Bay for their Mount Rushmore, Longoria will be up there. FYI.
I'm guessing he's going to be on that
I
list.
think it's impossible for him not to be there.
I don't know what has to happen, but maybe a couple guys from like now have like the greatest season of all time. I don't know, but he'll be on that list.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave, I had a lot of fun with this show today. This is a good one. We got to talk about the Mount Rushmore. We got to see your insane top 5 pitchers. We got to talk about my favorite things, contracts. And I got a little credit for your Christmas present. So I like it. I'm good.
Well, you